Well, this launch, in contrast to March's launch, this was a shorter range missile. So it will primarily target South Korea. And it was the first test of a new tactical nuclear weapon. So yes, this will primarily put South Korea under threat. The UN Security Council has typically taken its strongest action when North Korea launches long-range missiles that are capable of hitting the continental United States. But of course, US forces are also stationed in South Korea as well. So American soldiers are also under threat from this missile.
How concerning are these latest missile launches by North Korea?
I think they're very concerning because every missile test that the DPRK conducts, whether it is a success or it is a failure, it provides North Korean engineers with new data, new opportunities to further improve North Korea's weapons arsenal. And with every test, the international response over the past few years has been exceptionally weak. Gone are the days of 2017 when China and Russia would at least sign on to new UN Security Council sanctions, even if they weren't being properly implemented necessarily. Now, Beijing and Moscow are saying, no, we're reluctant to put more sanctions on North Korea. We want to encourage dialogue between Washington and Pyongyang, and North Korea and the US are having none of it. And as long as the US, China, Russia can't agree on a way forward, this is going to give North Korea more room to continue to test its nuclear weapons arsenal. So do not expect March's long-range missile tests or the shorter-range tactical nuclear missile test over the weekend. These are not going to be the last missile tests. We're going to see more over the coming months.
And has anything specific triggered these increased activity in missile testing?
It's nothing recent per se. It's more of a long-term trend. If we go back to 2018, when Donald Trump was in the White House, there were, of course, the summits between Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. There were the inter-Korean summits between Moon Jae-in and Kim. There seemed to be this possibility, perhaps, that all the sides could come together and make a deal toward denuclearization. That never happened. It collapsed in a big failure in February 2019 in Hanoi, Vietnam. And since then, relations between the US and North Korea and North and South Korea have grown worse and worse. With the COVID-19 pandemic as well, North Korea has shut itself off completely from the outside world. There's been, from Kim Jong-un's perspective, no prospect of some kind of deal that would seem attractive to him to even consider to give up even one of his hard-won nuclear weapons.
And James, how do you think North Korean officials feel about the recent election of the new South Korean president, Yoon Suk-yeol?
I think in some sense they were disappointed with Yoon Suk-yeol's election because Yoon has promised a much more hardline approach to North Korea. The current president, Moon Jae-in, over the last 5 years really pursued this policy of reconciliation with North Korea, that the two Koreas can get along by having joint economic projects and maybe joint sports teams, and then by building better relations, by taking a softer approach toward Pyongyang, that will convince Kim Jong-un to gradually loosen his clutch on his weapons arsenal. This didn't happen, and the conservative opposition won the recent South Korean election. Yoon has said that there's going to be no inter-Korean economic cooperation unless North Korea denuclearizes, which there are no signs of that happening. So basically, bottom line, no inter-Korean economic cooperation for the foreseeable future, basically.
So going forward then, James, do you see relations between the two Koreas deteriorating further?
Indeed, I do. I don't think there's much prospects of anything improving. The US and South Korea are going to strengthen their military cooperation under Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon Suk-yeol has also pledged to take the lead on sanctions implementation, and he's promised to improve relations with Japan, which have also deteriorated over the last few years due to historical disputes going back to the when Korea was a Japanese colony up until World War II. There were a lot of arguments about issues going back to that time over the past few years, which really distressed Washington because it does not want its two allies in the region fighting. It wants them cooperating. Now, with Yoon Suk-yeol in power, he said he's going to improve relations with Japan, but as the past few years have shown, this can be very, this is easier said than done because many in South Korea fundamentally view the relationship with Japan as a hostile one to a certain extent, because they don't believe that Tokyo has properly apologized for what it did during the colonial past.
James Fretwell, thank you.
Thank you very much.